I want to get to Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg because they're immensely powerful people.
Yeah.
You know,
I've noticed.
so you know them both.
Yeah.
How did you meet Mark Zuckerberg?
So 2006, I got an email from a guy named Chris Kelly, who was the chief privacy officer of Facebook. He says, "My boss has a huge business issue and he doesn't know how to solve it, and he needs to talk to somebody who's been around a long time but has no conflicts. Would you take a meeting?" Now, Facebook was 2 years old. Mark was 22, I was 50. And they had 9 million in sales the year before, and they got it basically from, pizza ads. And they didn't even have news feed yet. They were still just college campuses and high school students. But it was already obvious that he'd broken the code on social. Take the meeting. He comes in my office. I go, "Look, you don't know me, I don't know you. I need to tell you something." I said, "If it hasn't already happened, either Microsoft or Yahoo is going to offer $1 billion for the company." And I give him a whole bunch of explanations about what's going to happen, like your management team, your parents, the board of directors, everybody's going to tell you to take the money. It turns out the reason he was coming to see me was Yahoo had just offered $1 billion for Facebook. I basically hypothesized precisely what was going on.
But he hit you with silence, right? This is 23-year-old,
22-year-old,
22-year-old. He's CEO, of the hottest thing in the valley. What did the silence feel like? What were you thinking in that moment?
So, I describe this in some detail in the book because it was a meeting unlike any I've ever been in, and I don't know how many people have ever had this experience of being one-on-one in a conference room that's set up like a living room. So we're in sort of comfy chairs, but we're no further apart than you and I are. And I describe this thing to Mark, and he hasn't said anything yet. I mean, he's introduced himself, and that's it. There then ensues a silence that lasted almost 5 minutes. I challenge you to be one-on-one with somebody and have them pantomiming thinker poses for 5 minutes, and you not be on the verge of screaming. I mean, at about the 3-minute mark, my fingernails are implanted in the cushions of the side of the couch, and at the 4-minute mark, I'm literally thinking, I'm going to scream if he doesn't say something. And when he finally relaxes and says something, I mean, I have no idea what's just been happening. I've never been in a meeting where anybody ever did that before. But it's also, in some ways, really amazingly cool. Because I've said something and he's thinking so hard about it and trying to decide, do I trust this guy I've never met before? Right? So when he relaxes and starts talking to me, he's paying me a huge compliment. And that part's really obvious. It was obvious that this was, his first reflex was not to blurt out what was going on. And I'm looking at that as, wow, in an entrepreneur who's only 22, that's a really good sign. That level of caution, that level of listening, that level of thinking. I mean, I was already impressed before he came in, but after that I'm going, wow, he is really 1 in a billion. So I asked him, do you want to sell it? And he said, no, I don't.
Yeah. How have Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg changed since then?
I wonder, because I don't get to talk to them anymore. Mm-hmm. My last interaction with either one of them was October of 2016. And the last interaction with anybody at Facebook was February 2017, and they have very consciously not communicated with me since. So I can't be certain. All I can tell is from what I see. The Mark that I knew was really idealistic. He had this vision of connecting everyone in the world. The same way Google had a vision of collecting all the world's information. He was going to connect everybody. And he was so convinced of the merit of that idea that I think he truly believed that any means necessary to get there was appropriate. And in the early days, when he had authenticated ID, when he had real privacy protection, that was likely to work. But once 2011 happened and they started to go to this business model of surveillance and really trying to manipulate attention, in 2013 when they started to embed data from outside of Facebook so the targeting got really good, well, authenticated ID started to feel like friction. So they basically said, you know what, we're not going to actually police this anymore. We'll let the people who use the product do the policing. And on privacy, starting in what, 2009, they start trading data in a limited way. And they have the consent decree in 2011, and that clearly didn't slow them down at all. So my impression is that, that Zynga basically hacked Facebook in 2007, 2008, 2009. They realized, oh my God, friends lists are the key to increasing time on site, so we're going to move things forward. And you look and go, wow, I mean, I wish I'd hung around just a little bit longer so I'd seen that, because that part's really scary.
Yeah.
And that was a conscious choice, right? They basically said, our goal is so important that the personal information of the people who use our platform, it's just something we're going to trade for competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And they stopped. I'm not sure they ever looked at the people who use the platform as people, but from that moment forward, they for sure didn't, and they were for sure looking at them as a metric, and that's unhealthy.
Yeah.